Welcome to the Handy Hudsonite. Today we're going to look at how to change the tire on your vehicle. Is a flat tire something that you should deal with yourself and change out? If you are in a situation where you're on the road, the tire that's flat is traffic facing, I highly recommend to not try to change it yourself, especially if you're along a busy road. It is just not worth the risk of your own life to change out a tire in those conditions. And that's where I would recommend calling someone like AAA or your local tow agency through your car insurance, or even a friend or relative who could call on your behalf and get some help out there to get the car towed and dealt with properly. But let's say you are on a road that is not very busy in your own neighborhood, in your own town where there's not a lot of traffic, and especially if the tire is curbside, you feel like the conditions are safe enough to deal with it. So I want to show you how we're going to do that today, how you're going to change out your tire in the event of being on the side of the road. Okay, so here's how exactly you're going to change your tire. Now, obviously, some of these details are going to vary vehicle to vehicle. I have a 2004 Honda Odyssey, but the principles will be the same for most vehicles. And today I do not have a flat tire. As you can see, mine is fully inflated, working just fine, but if you had a flat tire, it would not be up like this because it wouldn't have air in it. So also, I'm going to be using some more higher end tools that will make this job a little quicker and easier, but you probably have to resort to what's provided in your vehicle, which will be a scissors type jack that will have a crank on it, and then a wrench that will, it'll just be a single wrench for the lug nuts on the wheel. Okay, so how do we do this? See, there is a lift point on the frame underneath, and this will vary some from vehicle to vehicle, but generally the manufacturer build in a reinforced part, and you'll have to look under the door. On my Odyssey here, it's near the front, and a lot of times it will be indented and will fit the scissors jack that's provided in your vehicle very nicely. But I'm using this heavy duty jack today just for the sake of demonstration. Now, I am also going to be using a cross wrench here that is easier to use than the ones usually provided in your vehicles, that will just allow me to get the wheel off a little easier. When it comes to taking the wheels off of your vehicle, you want to consider these wheel nuts. These wheel nuts are what's holding your wheel to the rest of your wheel assembly on the car. Now, I have a Honda, as I mentioned, and my Honda, one of my wheel nuts requires an adapter, and this is kind of more of a theft protection type of part. And so one of my nuts here requires this adapter, and I just kind of slip it right over until it's seated on there, and that will allow me to loosen it. So we want to loosen these, kind of break them while the wheel's on the ground, because when you get it up in the air, it's going to just be hard to do that. Though if you are lifting just one side of the vehicle, I suppose it probably will work just because you have the other wheel on the ground, but probably not real good for the components here behind the wheel. So I am just going to find the right size here for my vehicle, and then we will loosen these. Now remember, go to the left, lefty loosey, righty tighty, if you've heard that before. There's no real pattern for loosening these. When we do go to tighten them, there will be a pattern. I'm going to loosen the one that has the adapter on it. So now I have these loosened. I can now jack the car up. Now for me, it's just a simple lifting of the car right here. Now what we're going to do is just proceed to take these wheel nuts the rest of the way out. You can do this by hand, or to speed things up a little bit, you could do it with a wrench. Nice thing about these wrenches is you can get them spinning to get the nuts off. Make sure you do not lose these wheel nuts because they are vital for keeping your wheel on your vehicle. You want to be careful when you're taking the wheel off the vehicle. The wheel is heavy, and you just want to make sure that you're not trying to pull this off and carry it in a way that's not safe for your back. So you just slip this right off like that. And so this is how you take the wheel off. In my Odyssey, the spare is contained underneath the floor in front of the first set of back seats. But let's just pretend, for the sake of this tutorial, that this is our spare. Now, let me set this here just for a minute. So here are the studs. These are called wheel studs. These are what the bolts go onto, the wheel nuts go onto, I should say, not bolts, the nuts go onto. And so we want to make sure when we put the wheel back on the car, we want to make sure that we are slipping it over these so that we can tighten down the wheel nuts properly. And that will obviously allow the wheel to go back on the vehicle. And when you're setting this wheel in place, when you're lifting up this wheel, you want to be really careful with your back when you're trying to set this in, and do this as carefully as you can. So there, we've set it back on. You take your wheel nuts and just finger tighten it a little bit to get it started. Now you may need to push in the wheel like that to get access to some of the other studs in there. You want to make sure you don't lose this adapter, because if you do, there's no way you're going to get your wheel off. Make sure we have the right size here. And this, again, you can, if you're using this tool, you can spin it like this. If you're using just the stock tools that come in your car, it's going to be a little bit harder. Now, when we go to tighten these, there is a particular way that we need to do this. We need to tighten these wheel nuts in kind of a star pattern across from each other, so that making sure that this is getting seated evenly back on. So that's where I started here, and now I'm going opposite of that one to tighten it down. Okay, so we'll go up here to this one. You can even kind of finger tighten it a little bit too to give it a head start. Okay, now we're going to go across to this one. But this one needs the adapter. Nice thing about this adapter is it screws in there. You can use it to screw in a little tighter. Okay, so now we're going to go down to this one. Okay. Now, when it comes to tightening your wheel, you want to make sure that you don't over tighten these wheel nuts, because you can end up breaking off one of your wheel studs doing that. And I've done that before. and you can replace the studs, but it involves having to take the brakes, the brake components off, and it's a bit more involved. So I'm going to go through, and we just want to make sure that these are snug, and when we put the vehicle back on the ground, or this wheel back on the ground, we can tighten it up a little more. Like this one was still loose. Again, I'm going in the star pattern. Okay, so then what we'll do is you just want to lower the jack and then just tighten these, and what I recommend is just tighten it just enough with your hands so that it feels firm, and then when you go to have the wheel or the tire replaced, the new tire fixed, or whatever your situation is at the shop or wherever you take it, they will hopefully torque it down to the right specifications for your vehicle. So once you get these tightened as much as you can here with it up in the air, then we're going to just put the car back down. It's going to lower it back down just until the tire is seated on the ground. And then I can go through and tighten these the rest of the way. Now again, we don't want to over tighten these. I am just going to snug them up, again in the star pattern. Just make sure they're good and firm. But again, it's very easy to over tighten these and break the studs, as I mentioned. So then what we're going to do is you put the jack the rest of the way down. Some vehicles will have a spare that is smaller than the original tire, and you want to make sure to get your tire repaired immediately, because you don't want to be driving very far on those small spares. Now some vehicles have a full-size spare and you can go a little bit longer, but if you're unsure of the tightening sequence and the tightening procedure on your wheel, then you want to make sure to get to your local tire shop or mechanic so that you can get that tire fixed and be on your way. Safety is the key when it comes to changing out your tire. Make sure that you do it in a safe place, and if you cannot be in a safe place, I highly recommend that you call a tow service and get your car towed to a facility where they can repair your tire properly. I hope this has been help to you on when it comes to how to change the tire on your vehicle. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, hit the bell on this next to the subscription button so that you can get instant notifications for tips, hacks, and reviews on auto, tech, and home projects so that you can get the job done. No? Really? Does that look good? I hope so. Well, at least my tire isn't flat. Yeah, good. I don't know why Honda made these. I mean, sure, it's easy to take a wheel off of a car, but really, am I going to want to